All right, folks, we'll call the meeting to order. Thank you all for being here tonight. And I am super excited to get us started with our pledge tonight. So I would like to ask Ms. Tatum Smith. Tatum is a fifth grader at Sloan Creek Intermediate. Tatum is new to Lovejoy this year, joining us from California. Welcome, Tatum, and your family. Tatum loves gymnastics, Barbies, and making crafts for Barbies. And she is going to lead us in our pledge tonight. So if you would, you want to come up to the podium and we'll get you a mic and get you going. Marvin, you want to help her with that?
American flag salute. Ready, begin. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Texas flag salute. Ready, begin. Honor the Texas flag. I pledge allegiance to thee, Texas, one state under God, one and indivisible.
Great job, Tatum.
Straight out of California.
Tatum, that was pretty impressive coming straight out of California. All right. Let the roll reflect that all board members were present. And recognitions tonight, Dr. Laura Tinsley.
We have some great celebrations tonight. I'm going to ask Coach Ross to come up as he introduces our cross-country coaches and team members. We want to celebrate the success that they recently had at the state level.
All right, can we go ahead and have our coaches up here? Coach Littlefield, Coach Logan Kelly is unfortunately not going to be with us right now this evening, but I'm going to have them come up. I'm going to let them brag on the kids. I get to brag on them. So many times we all get to see the kids in competition, and we couldn't be more proud of what they did. Those of you that got to watch them run, it makes you proud to be here at Lovejoy and be a Leopard. Many of you got to see them. We saw the successes that they had. Very few of you understand that the commitment and the work that these kids put in, it wasn't about a race. It wasn't about a season. It's about a legacy that these coaches have built and a work ethic and a focus that these young people have had. Their commitment to each other and to the school and to what they're doing was incredible. And I know obviously that comes from them, from great parents and great communities, but it comes from great leadership as well. Thank you so much, coaches. We appreciate it.
All right. Hello, I am Carly Littlefield. First, I want to thank everybody in our community. The support is amazing. We had our banquet recently, and the support we got from you all, the board and superintendent and athletic directors, it's awesome, and we're very appreciative. So thank you to the whole community. It's just, we couldn't be more glad to be here at Lovejoy. Lovejoy proud. So someone recently asked me to define the culture of this team, and I could say many, many, many things, but I think some of the things that stand out to me the most about these girls, I'm not going to look at you guys. Quit looking at me. Last time I was here during track season, if you remember, I about lost it. So now my goal is to not look at them because it makes me emotional. The older I get, the more emotional I get. I don't know. So anyway, but they're disciplined. I've coached for many years, and I've coached a lot of teams. I've coached boys, I've coached girls, I've coached different sports. I have never seen a group of young people that are more disciplined than not only these 7, but really our whole Army. But these girls right here, they do everything they can to get better, whether it's eating right, whether it's getting sleep that most teenagers don't want to get, whether it's doing the little things behind the scenes that nobody sees, they're doing it. They have an unbelievable work ethic. If you ever get the opportunity to just come sit at Celebration Park or come sit at the track and watch them, I've always described it as poetry in motion. You watch, it's just beautiful. It really is. The way they work, the way they race, the way they train is unbelievable. The camaraderie, there's a lot of laughter, even though there's also a lot of tears and a lot of there's a lot of ugly moments, but I think that's one of the fun things about, sports in general, but especially this sport is you're in a lot of pain and you suffer together. And so through their suffering, they have built a really, really special bond. And probably the closest group of girls I've ever coached. And finally, my favorite thing about them is that they are humble and they are servant-hearted. They are the first people to help pick up a piece of trash, or they're not flashy. They're not in this for, they're not in it for the trophy. We are in it for the trophy. Don't get me wrong, but they don't need a lot. They don't require a lot. They show up and they put in the work and then they go home. And so I'm really proud of you all for that. So now I'll get to the honors. They went undefeated season, which is very hard to do in cross country because you're racing 30, 40 teams at a time. They have been a nationally ranked team all season long, currently number 22 ranked in the nation, and obviously state champions. So if you want to give them a round of applause. So we had all 7 of these girls actually receive TGCA All-State recognition. Amy, Kaylee, Sarah, and Peyton made the CCCAT All-State team. And then Amy and Kaylee were both in the top 10 receiving All-State honors. And wait, I wanted to say their names too. So this is Haley Malik. Haley, give a little wave. She is a senior. Kate Carlson is a sophomore. Katie Armstrong, give a wave, Katie. She's a senior and she's academic all-state, so she's also smart. We don't tell her that often. Kaylee Littlefield is a sophomore, and Amy Moorfield is a junior. Sarah Moorfield is a sophomore, and Peyton Benson is a sophomore. So as you can see, we should be good again next year. So congratulations, ladies.
Yeah, let's get a picture with them.
It's a state team.
Yeah.
All right, you guys are going to have to bear with me because as Coach Ross stated, this was an unexpected surprise that I'd be up here getting to speak with you to you guys tonight. My name is Andy Doty. I'm the assistant cross-country coach for our cross-country program. I know this is going to definitely kill Logan that he's not able to be up here and give these accolades, but I hope that I am able to express just the immense pride that we have for our team. Also, I want to apologize for what I'm wearing because once again, this was unexpected, so I would not normally look like this. But a little bit of this is going to be formulaic and some of this is going to be off the cuff. I have some notes from Coach Kelly that I wanted to share with you guys. First and foremost, we would like to thank Ms. Cordell, the school board, for your constant support. For you guys always being our cheerleaders, for cheering us on, for being on, recognizing us, for every step of the way being there for us, and just the amount of time and effort you and energy y'all put into your community, into our young leaders of the future. We would like to specifically thank Mr. Bobo for coming out to the state meet. That was pretty awesome to get to see one of our school board members out there cheering our guys on. And then we would be remiss to not thank Mr. Mayfield and Coach Ross just for all of their constant campus support. We're very lucky to have two men who care so much about our program, care about our guys and our girls, and really care about our successes. As far as our accolades, I should know more of these. Logan does a very in-depth, Coach Kelly does a very in-depth presentation every year. And so we have been district champions for 15 years in a row now. We have been to the regionals for 15 years as well, and been regional champs for seven times in that 15 years. We have and been 6 in a row, working on our 7th. So yeah, so 6 in a row, 7 total. There'll be a quiz at the end of this. Sorry. We also have qualified for the state championship for the 14th year in a row. So the guys have. And this is our 8th time that our boys team has been on the state podium. With this year, they were bronze medalists, so they came in 3rd. Our CCC-AT all-region members were Matt Murray, Rohan Sharma, Nick Yarin, and Riley McGowan. And then our all-state and all-region is Tate Barr, senior, can you wave? Okay, and then our academic all-state first was Rohan Sharma, wave Rohan, Tate 2nd, and Riley and Matt were honorable mentions. So that is all I have for statistics. So this part is off the cuff. So give me a second. A few things that I want to say. This is my 2nd year coaching with this program. I've come from larger 6As, and I have to tell you that the amount of support that these guys have for each other, for their community, the amount of support that the Booster Club has, their family members, their parents, the love that is felt among this entire program is next. It's the reason that we have 120 kids in our program. It's the reason that if you come to middle school meets, you see that we have one of the largest programs in Texas. I'm going to thank them in a second, but I want to just give a special thanks and recognition to our seniors, because at the beginning of the year, we tasked them with leaving a legacy, and yet again, they rose to that level and moved past it and surpassed it for us. So we thank our seniors very much for the constant tradition of excellence that you guys and the standard that you hold. When we talk about Lovejoy being elite, you guys are that direct representation of what elite looks like. And I'm very excited to see where the future takes you as young gentlemen with all of the skills that you have developed through this. They don't ever get a chance to recognize themselves, Coach Kelly and Coach Littlefield, so I'm in a unique position to get to unexpectedly be up here. I told this to our staff. We do little celebrations every week, and I was forced to speak at that as well. I told everyone that working with these two individuals has completely changed who I am as a coach and as a person. They are the two people that bring light to every single thing that we do. They're our guiding ship. They are the most organized, structured in different ways people that you will meet. And there are no two other people on this planet that care more about our Lovejoy children. They go above and beyond in their summers. They take weeks at a time to show up, to be there. So we can talk about all the pavement that these guys have put in their blood, sweat, and tears, but it almost goes double for behind the scenes for Coach Kelly and Coach Littlefield. And I just would be remiss to not thank them as well. So thank you all. Sorry. Real quick, we have Matt Murray, who is a senior, Rohan Sharma, who is a senior, Nick Yarin, who is a sophomore, Jack Thompson, who is a freshman, Riley McGowan, who is a senior, Andrew Polden, who is a sophomore, Will Carlson, who is a freshman, and Joe Bluestein. Congratulations, guys. Oh, wait, sorry, and Tate Barr.
Yeah, I had the privilege of being able to attend the cross-country banquet this year, which was truly a privilege. And I got to say, I was blown away by the quality of leadership, excellence is one word to describe that entire program from top to bottom. It was truly impressive, and it was a privilege to be there to witness that program, and it's just truly impressive. So, all right, next up is recognition of AP teachers.
Good evening, board, cabinet, community, and staff. It is an honor to be here this evening to talk about briefly the achievements of our AP students and then our AP teachers. The last couple of years have presented some opportunities in the AP world with AP at home exams and then changes to exams. Last year, we had 773 students take AP exams, and that was a combined total of 1,665 exams. If you're doing quick math, which I don't, I used the calculator, that's just over 2 exams per student. 534 of those students scored a 3 or higher, and of those students, 76.5% of the graduating class earned a 3 or higher during their time at Lovejoy High School, and that's on at least one exam. So those are students that are going off to college with college credit on the horizon for them. We also increased our percent of students scoring a 3 or higher to 69.08%. And that would not be possible without the hard work of all of our teachers. They truly exemplify kids come first, one heart, one Lovejoy, and best today, better tomorrow. As further evidence of that, we had 275 AP scholars. 110 of those earned the AP Scholar distinction with 3 exams scoring 3 or higher. We had 49 AP Scholars with honor and 113 AP Scholars with distinction. We had 25 AP capstone diplomas. Those are students that completed AP research and seminar along with 3 additional AP courses of their choosing, and then 13 AP seminar and research certificates. Those students again represent the fruits of the labors of our teachers. AP teachers, would you come up, please? This evening, we'd like to take a few moments to recognize our 2021 AP teachers and also introduce our new to AP teachers. Cheryl Anderson is our AP capstone teacher. She teaches both AP research and AP seminar. John Baker teaches AP psychology. Brandon Barter teaches both AP government and AP US history. Amanda Beller teaches AP Art History. Ashley Bonilla teaches AP World History. Keith Christian retired last year, teaching both AP Calculus AB and BC. Tim Dougherty teaches AP Human Geography. Bruce Dillow teaches AP US Government. Jason Earhart, teaches AP Language and Composition. Dr. Terry Eater teaches AP Music Theory. Darla Emerson teaches AP Statistics. Pam Ford teaches AP Computer Science. Dirk Horst teaches Physics 1, Physics 2, and Physics C. Suma Joseph taught AP Physics 1. Billie Jean Kelsey teaches AP French.
No, you're fine.
Homa Lewis teaches AP European History and AP Human Geography. Jose Madrid teaches AP Spanish Language and AP Spanish Literature. Bryce McCaslin teaches AP Studio Arts. Mike Martini taught AP English Literature. Sadaf Syed teaches AP Biology. Jeff Seidel teaches AP Studio Arts, and Jason Taylor teaches AP Chemistry and AP Environmental Science. This year, we added Cynthia Anderson. She is teaching AP English Literature. Crystal Gaddy teaching AP Calculus BC. Caleb Goff teaching AP Calculus AB. These teachers really, truly go above and beyond. They do so much behind the scenes to make things possible for students, from knowing their students and knowing their needs to hosting study jams and pizza nights and mystery rooms and games to study, and just really giving their heart and soul. So thank you very much for everything that you give to each of our students every single day.
All right, next up is Miss Mary Mullen, and she is going to recognition of Outstanding Leadership in Science Education Award.
Thank you. Good evening, school board and Lovejoy community. My name is Mary Mullen. I am the Director of Curriculum Instruction here in the Lovejoy School District. I'd like to recognize Cindy Bronson, Lovejoy's K-6 Science Content Coordinator. Unfortunately, Cindy cannot be here this evening though, but it is my pleasure to recognize Cindy tonight for receiving the award for Outstanding Leadership in Science Education, given by the Texas Science Education Leadership Association, commonly known as TSELA. This prestigious award recognizes and honors a TSELA member who through their work has demonstrated outstanding leadership in science education at the school, district, county, regional, and national levels. The award was presented to Cindy at the TSELA annual meeting earlier this month. It was accompanied by a check of $1,000 and this plaque. I have the plaque, but not the $1,000. It is no surprise to anyone that knows Cindy or has worked with Cindy that she is the recipient of this award. She has served as our K-6 Science Content Coordinator since 2016. She has also served as the State Tax Review Committee lead and was also the leader of the K2 work group. She has served as president of the local science coordinator group, the DFW Science Supervisors. She has presented at the local, state, and national levels, and she has spearheaded the Lovejoy STEM Festival since its inception 3 years ago. As the recipient of the award, Cindy will also be nominated by TSELA for the National Science Education Leadership Award, and we wish her the best of luck. Congratulations, Cindy, if you're watching out there.
And thank you, Ms. Mullen. Next up, Mr. Kevin Parker to introduce our new hires.
This time, I would love to welcome Sarah Rizzoli up here with me, please. You know, whenever you are a principal at any school and you have a resignation in the middle of the year, it sends a bit of uncertainty through the building. But as with all challenging things, it also presents a great opportunity. And sometimes you come out looking really good in the end. And we had that opportunity at Willow Springs this year. I'm introducing to you Sarah Rizzoli. She's our new 7th grade science teacher / soon-to-be coach. After the beginning of the year, we made a deal with Sarah that you come in and let's get your feet settled in the classroom first. And then after the beginning of the year, you can start your coaching assignments because she, from what I understand, is a phenomenal coach as well. So she comes to us as a Texas State grad, and she has been teaching at the International Leadership Charter School in the Fort Worth area at a couple of different campuses. And she and her family moved over to this area a few weeks ago, and we were fortunate enough to be the recipients of her expertise in teaching. And so I've had the opportunity just to visit with Sarah, of course, during the interview process. And for somebody to be so young in their career and have the composure that she has, we're really, really lucky to have Ms. Rizzoli in Lovejoy, and we hope that she's here for a long, long time. So please welcome Sarah Rizzoli. And before I forgot, I got ahead of myself. Sarah, when we introduce new hires, we always give two gifts. One is the complimentary and symbolic apple. This one is a little bit different because Lovejoy is a little bit different. So we're going to give you one that's covered in chocolate. We also give you a pen, and this pen is to symbolize hopefully the next chapter of your career that you can write here in Lovejoy. So welcome to Lovejoy. We're really, really happy to have you. Yeah.
Thank you, Mr. Parker. All right. Next up are public comments related to agenda items.
Mr. Owens, this evening we have one public comment related to agenda items.
Okay, great. So we'll now hear public comments, and the audience participation at a board meeting is limited to this portion of time designated to receive public comments in accordance with policy. At all times during a board meeting, the audience shall not enter into discussion or debate on matters being considered by the board unless requested by the presiding officer. Individuals participating by submitting a comment card in advance of the meeting. Comment cards are not transferable to another speaker. An incomplete or untimely submitted public comment cards will be heard if time allows only. Sign up open 1 hour before the posted meeting start time on the agenda and closed at the posted meeting start time. If a speaker is not present when his or her name is called, the speaker forfeits the opportunity to speak at the meeting. The board will hear public comments regarding agenda items only at this time. An individual must indicate the agenda item their comments will address. Failure to list the agenda item being addressed will result in the presumption that you're speaking on a non-agenda item and will be addressed during the appropriate portion of the meeting. Comments will be heard in the order they are submitted, allotting 30 total minutes. Each speaker has 3 minutes. In the interest of time and orderly conduct, the board reserves the right to adjust the public comment section, reorder agenda items, continue agenda items to a later meeting, provide expanded opportunity for public comment, or establish an overall time limit for public comment, adjust the time allotted to each speaker, and make other reasonable adjustments to the timing of public comment in accordance with law. 3 minutes may be provided for each comment. However, if the total number of comments exceeds 10, the time limit may be reduced. In no event will the speaker be given less than 1 minute to address the board. Stacey Dillon will display a sign when 1 minute remains and will display another sign when your time has expired. If you're not finished speaking at the end of your time, you'll be expected to stop, or I'll interrupt you so we can move forward to the next item. All limitations set forth in board policy BED local will apply, and the public is encouraged to review the policy for detailed instructions and information. Any comments are limited solely to the identified agenda item as indicated on the speaker's card. Should an individual stop or fail to address the agenda item listed on the public comment card submitted, the presiding officer will stop the speaker and request that they maintain focus on the agenda item listed and or ask them to share the information at an appropriate point in the meeting. The information shared in public comment solely provides the opinion of the individual speaker and not the district. Specific factual information or recitation of existing policies may be furnished in response to inquiries, but the board shall not deliberate or decide regarding any subject that is not included on the agenda posted with notice of the meeting. The board may also refer a speaker to a staff member who may have authority over the issue. The presiding officer or designee shall determine whether an individual addressing the board has attempted to solve a matter administratively through resolution channels established by policy. If not, the individual shall be referred to the appropriate policy to seek resolution. It is a criminal offense for a person with intent to prevent or disrupt a lawful meeting to substantially obstruct or interfere with the ordinary conduct of a meeting by a physical action or a verbal utterance and thereby curtail the exercise of others' First Amendment rights. The board shall not tolerate disruption of the meeting by members of the audience. If after at least one warning by the presiding officer, an individual continues to disrupt the meeting by his or her words or actions, the presiding officer may request assistance from law enforcement officials to have the individual removed from the meeting. So with all of that being said, can we please call our first speaker?
Anastasia Dougherty.
Hello, my name is Anastasia Dougherty. I'm a teacher up at the high school, and I wanted to thank you all for the opportunity to speak with you. I'm thankful for your leadership and the work that you all are putting in for the future of LISD. As we consider next year's budget, I urge you to remember all the people who make our district great. In particular, I would like you to remember the custodians, paraprofessionals, and child development center staff. These folks are part of our LISD family. I see them every day. I depend on them every day. We all do. These three groups of people are part of the bedrock of what keeps our district running, but they are the most often overlooked. After years without a consistent pay raise, they are feeling forgotten and they are leaving. As they continue to leave, the culture of what we have built here will begin to chip away. We are a top-tier district, a destination district for families and students. But we may have taken that for granted for too long, and we are losing our way when it comes to staff retention. We have been hemorrhaging staff, and in order to retain our people, we need to be proactive and create competitive salaries that will show them how much they are valued. Our custodians, paraprofessionals, and child development staff are working full-time, yet making poverty line wages. One of our most valued custodians, a pillar at the high school who has been with the district for over a decade, has been consistently working overtime. He's working overtime because our custodians are short-staffed. Again, folks are leaving for higher wages and quality of life elsewhere, and who can blame them? We have staff that are working over 40 hours a week and bringing home just over $2,000 a month. Our child development staff, teachers, and assistants make between $20,000 to $30,000 a year. These are full-time employees. My son's teachers here at the Development Center put their hearts into their classrooms with great lesson plans, activities, crafts, resources, community connections. They even bring in gifts paid for with their own money at Halloween, Christmas, and Thanksgiving. Then they take home $24,000 a year. That should be unacceptable. This is a district with a high cost of living. Collin County has the highest cost of living of any of the surrounding counties. The average rent for 1,000 square feet is $1,200 to $1,500 a month, and our staff are bringing home $2,000 a month. I ask, would any of us be willing to live off of $2,000? Would we be able to support our families making under $30,000 a year? I know I couldn't. We need to reconsider staff retention, item 14G. What will keep staff here rather than going to Buc-ee's, Aldi's, Whataburger, all of who pay more than we do, and many who have better benefits? We are a district with values. We stand for the graduate profile. We care about our students, our people. We care about hard work and respect. We should care about the people that keep our campuses running. We should care about the teachers of our littlest leopards, the staff working with our most sensitive populations and special needs students. There should be no debate as to whether they deserve a livable wage, because we could not do this without them. As we start prioritizing next year's budget, I urge you to consider the heart of what we stand for.
Thank you.
And remember the custodians, paraprofessionals, and child care staff. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
All right. I'd like to ask Mr. Bobo to share our invocation for the evening.
Bow with me. Dear God, we are so grateful for the Lovejoy community and thank you for the students, parents, teachers, and staff who worked so hard building such superb graduates and students. We thank you for all the successes through the hard work of teachers and coaches and students we have recognized tonight. I ask your blessing on tonight's board meeting and ask for wisdom to best serve Lovejoy ISD. We pray you touch those who are in need in our community that we don't know about. And we ask you to be with those involved in the accident just now outside our building. Amen.
Amen. Thank you, Marvin. All right, item 8 is consider approval of our Willow Springs Middle School principal.
Thank you, Mr. President and board. One of the most important things that we do as district leadership is hire principals, because our principals have such a profound daily direct impact on our students, our staff, and our families. They set the culture. They absolutely are the ones that are responsible for our students having a great educational experience, for our employees, our teachers having a great experience in terms of job satisfaction, and then setting the tone in terms of honoring our parents as critical partners in the educational process of our students. So we are so excited to be here this evening to be having the conversation about the next leader of Willow Springs Middle School. Tonight, I am bringing forward the recommendation of Mr. Chris Coder. Mr. Coder is currently the principal of Anderson Elementary in Allen ISD. He is an experienced campus leader and educator at all 3 levels, high school, middle school, and elementary. We were so excited to hear that Mr. Coder was interested in this position because of his deep passion for middle school. While he has been extremely successful at elementary and has loved his experience there, he has a heart for middle schoolers and definitely made a profound impact during his time as a middle school assistant principal at Ford Middle School in Allen ISD. We are thrilled that Mr. Coder is going to hopefully, here in a few minutes, be a Lovejoy Leopard, because we believe that he is the best possible person to carry the tradition of excellence that Willow Springs Middle School very much has forward. Do you have any questions for me?
Who are these young folks with Mr. Coder?
This is my wife, Emily. This is my daughter, Julianne, my son, Hayes, and my son, Eric.
Awesome. I have no questions. You guys have any questions? Awesome. If there are no questions, I would entertain a motion.
I move. We welcome you as our new middle school principal.
So moved, Amy Smith.
Second.
Second, Ann Smith. All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed?
We will do a picture here in a second, so we'll have you come forward. Mr. Coder has brought his beautiful family with him this evening. I'll let you stand up and say a few words, and then we'll join you for a picture.
Yeah, I'm super excited to be part of the Lovejoy family. Like Ms. Cordell said a moment ago, I've got experience at all three levels, elementary, middle, and high school, also some office experience as well. I'm super excited to bring that experience that I've had the last 16 years in education to Lovejoy. So thank you for having me.
We've got the official Accolades.
Maybe you get a bite of that. It does have chocolate.
That's a legitimate question. Legitimate question.
He was.
All right, and Ms. Cordell, you're up again. Consider approval of our Sloan Creek Intermediate School principal.
Yes, I can say that Allen ISD is not going to be happy with Lovejoy ISD tonight because we are thrilled to share with you that our recommendation for Sloan Creek Intermediate School principal is Courtney Halpin, who currently serves as English Language Arts Coordinator in Allen ISD. She is an experienced instructional leader. She has served as an instructional specialist. She has served as an assistant principal and as an English language arts coordinator, in addition to some experience in the private sector of education. Courtney is highly respected for her strong instructional leadership, as well as her passionate, caring attitude about ensuring all students learn at high levels. It is my great pleasure to recommend her for principal of Sloan Creek Intermediate School.
Awesome. It's like you have a support cast with you as well.
This is my son Dane, my daughter Brinley, and my husband Mark.
Right.
And Dane and Brinley, if I am correct, are already Lovejoy Leopards.
We are. They are currently at Parks Elementary.
Awesome. Awesome. Any questions for Ms. Cordell?
I move we approve Courtney Halpin as the next principal of Sloan Creek.
So moved by Ann Smith, second Marvin. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Welcome aboard.
Grateful, humbled, honored to be a part of the Lovejoy community. And our kids are being lovely here, and we're so excited to start this up.
I'm so proud.
All right. Item 10, Mr. Parker, consider approval of new hires.
Senior Board Book, you'll see that we have 3 honors that we would like to bring to you for your approval.
Anyone have questions on the new hires? If not, we'll entertain a motion.
So moved.
Amy Smith. Second. Chad Collins. All in favor? Opposed? Thank you.
Thank you.
All right, next up on the agenda is our consent agenda. Anyone have anything they would like pulled in our consent agenda tonight? If not, I would entertain a motion for approval.
We approve the consent agenda.
So moved, Ann Smith. Second, Jason James. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Thank you. Right. Next up is item 12, board notifications, and this would be Ms. Cordell.
Thank you, Mr. President. This next item is notification only for your reference on page 48 of the board book. You can find our November resignations.
Thank you. Item 13, discussion and consideration of approval of our board priorities. Dr. Duplessis. I'm sorry, board budget priorities.
It's a lot of these. Thank you. What an awesome bunch of recognition this morning. It's a joy to follow up on that. To discuss our board budget priorities. We'll have a slide up here in a moment, I'm sure. But for those of you that attended the November 8th board workshop, it was a long one. So I won't take quite as long as I did that 2 hours. Thank you for your time and attention during that long, very productive discussion. So we took the opportunity during that board meeting to review a lot of information related to school finance and Lovejoy ISD in particular, as we aim to set the framework for our 2022-2023 budget process. So when we did that, the first thing that we wanted to do was set a theme, which is reframing our story. That is the theme that we're going to use as we begin the budgeting process for next fiscal year. And as we talked about that, we had some props, some blocks, and we used those as kind of a tool or a keystone as we discussed some of the information about our financial picture. Some of the topics we discussed were benchmarking. We just shared a lot of data, just with no real, initiative that we're planning on doing, but just a lot of benchmarking data around Lovejoy ISD, how our numbers compare to our neighboring districts, what our revenue sources are, what our expenditures are, and things of that nature. We also discussed enrollment and attendance because obviously those two things are the main drivers of the amount of revenue that we receive to operate the district. We talked about projections and we shared several scenarios for a 5-year budget projection showing last year, this year, and 3 following years, and different scenarios based on whether we had a payroll increase and what our enrollment was if we followed the demographic trend that's been provided to the district. So we discussed that. We discussed the formation of a financial sustainability committee, which we'll also talk about this evening in another agenda item. We talked about zero-based budget planning. And last but not least, the development of our budget priorities. And I'm so sorry you can't see the slides, but we'll continue to talk through them and revisit if we can. So the board goal determination really revolved around a lot of open discussion. There were a lot of questions, a lot of feedback related to what we wanted to accomplish. Look at that. Thank you. So again, there's our theme, the topics that we discussed at the budget workshop.
And we had a lot of open discussion, questions, and then all of that work culminated in a prioritization exercise, which is often very difficult. And really a lot of the work that we get out of that discussion is every bit as fruitful as the difficulty of prioritizing all the things that we want to accomplish at a very high level, of course, to set the stage for the 2022-23 budget process. So we've compiled the feedback from that meeting in a couple of different ways here. So one of the things we discussed significantly was our fund balance, the fact that we started this year with less than 75 days of fund balance. And at the time of the meeting, we were at 68 days, which causes quite a bit of cash flow issues, particularly for our district. So there was a lot of discussion around number one and number two, and the fact that both of those really were priorities. And really, we had some board member who will go unnamed who named one 1B, even though that wasn't an option. So I want you to know that both of those were very, very important, but we also realize that to be financially sustainable, they both have to go hand in hand. Essentially, if we prioritize compensation above our financial security, which is found in our fund balance, then eventually we'll run out of the ability to provide the compensation that we want to provide. So those two were definitely the dead ringers on the budget priorities as we go into this next year. And then attendance and enrollment as, again, the major drivers of our financial picture. So the manner in which we're going to achieve those priorities are through four major initiatives. Those are zero-based budgeting, which we will kick off here in another couple weeks with our budget leaders. They will begin really putting their budget together for next year and prioritizing the items that they have within their budget. The second one is a staffing efficiency study, and we've discussed this briefly before. TASB has completed their interviews as well as their data gathering, and will be bringing back in the next month or so the results of the staffing efficiency study. And the third is a financial sustainability committee, which we'll mention again later this evening. And the last are program reviews, where we want to kind of take a deeper look at some of the programs that we have and how we can make them more profitable. So that is a very brief snapshot of a very long process that we went through to really identify what's the trajectory that we want to take as we look towards developing our 22-23 budget. I just put some notes up here of additional feedback. Lots of really good notes and comments were made, and so we just kind of jotted those down as we begin our work with the Financial Sustainability Committee, and we start developing our budgets through the zero-based budgeting process. We just wanted to keep some of these things in mind. So at this time, we wanted to bring those budget priorities forward for formal board approval.
Any discussion around the priorities, questions, comments?
It sounds like we don't, but we talked about this already at great length. So
Yeah.
I don't want it to seem void that this doesn't have lots of discussion around it, but we did already have
So
lots of
this
discussion.
new meeting structure we've had this year, board workshops prior to the board meetings, are intended to enhance the amount of communication that goes on. So around each of these items, there was substantial discussion in our board workshop as to why we arrived at the priorities we arrived at. And so when we get to these meetings and we're moving through here, we're trying to be efficient in both venues to accomplish the objectives of each item. And understanding the importance of each of these it's hard to say one's more important than the other, but it's also understandably, we can't spend money we don't have, simply put. And what a lot of people might not understand about fund balance is how the district cash flows itself. There's one thing about how we're funded, and there's another thing about how we actually cash flow the operations of the district. And fund balance is how we do that. Ultimately, we bring in our tax collections and we spend those down through the course of a year. And that excess carries us through that time with which we're waiting on funds to reimburse that. And so fund balance is critically important to the health of the district. And obviously compensation, we can't say enough about the work that our people are doing on behalf of our children. And one way to say something about that is how we compensate them. So obviously the board has discussed that, deliberated that. Katie and administration has discussed it, and it's a huge priority for us to move forward the needle on compensation. And two caveats that allow these two things to happen are attendance and enrollment. We get paid based on the number of folks we have in seats. And it's important that we continue to move the needle to enhance how that looks as well. To accomplish that, the methodologies that we discussed, again, zero-based budgeting, staffing efficiency, ensuring that we are operating in a way that's responsible and that's efficient. And I'm excited to have the folks on the financial sustainability involved in this process so that we can bring new perspectives, but we can also educate. That also will help with, I think, item 3 and 4 for sure as we move forward. So just adding a little bit of narrative and color from a board perspective around each of these items for you all maybe listening online or in attendance. Any other comments about
I wanted to add one thing, Barrett. So for those of you that weren't there or weren't watching, we were given a stack of important things, right? And we had to rank them. What's my 1? What's my 2? Somebody had a 1A, 1B. Might figure out who that was. But anyway, what was super cool as we were sitting there trying to figure out, because all these things are important, and we're all very different people, all 7 of us, we all had those items pretty much in the same area. So we're all aligned on trying to accomplish these same things, which I thought was cool because we were all sitting there trying to figure this out. And then when we put them on the board, everybody felt the same about, the fund balance, compensation, and then we know attendance and enrollment are kind of the levers. So for people that didn't see that, it was it was just cool to see that we all have the same things in mind.
So with that, if you all agree with these priorities, then I would need a motion to approve those for the budgeting process.
So moved.
So move Chad Collins.
Second.
Second Marvin Bobo. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Thank you.
Thank you.
Item 14 is consider approval of the TASB Update 118. Ms. Cordell.
Update 118 covers recommended local policy revisions to address new laws that were enacted as part of the 87th legislative regular session that ended on May 31st, 2021. These are changes that are recommended by our TASB policy consultants so that we are in alignment with current legal requirements.
As I read through those, it made very good next time reading. Any comments or questions on the updates?
I'm just grateful there's somebody that combs through all that. You're getting us in alignment.
If you know me very well, you know that's not my strong suit.
Anything different than what has been recommended?
No, we went with their standard
The consultant's
recommendations, and there's nothing new or surprising. Obviously, following the legislative session, all those changes, we've all been at sessions even together where we got some of those updates that were coming in. This is just that lag in making sure local and legal policy is in alignment with those new updates.
Seemed like about 80% of it was grammar. So with that, if there are no other questions, I would need a recommendation to approve these updates.
So moved.
So moved, Dan Smith.
Second.
Second, Amy Smith. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Thank you. Consider approval of updates to BED local board meeting public participation.
We are recommending an update to BED local to align with the board practice of allowing 3 minutes for public comment. We are currently in alignment with the ED local, but we feel this change would provide better alignment between our practice and policy. So if someone is going out in preparation for attendance at a school board meeting, looking at that policy and wanting to plan ahead for their public comment, they're better able to understand that amount of time that they will have to do that.
Thank you. Any questions, comments?
I move to make that change.
So moved, Jason.
Second.
Second, Marvin. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Thank you. Consider approval of a resolution to cast an official ballot for the Board of Directors of the Collin County Central Appraisal District.
Each voting unit of the Collin Central Appraisal District must vote in an open meeting and then report its vote by written resolution and submit the resolution to the chief appraiser before December 15th, 2021. Our district has 69 votes, and our board may cast all of its votes for one candidate or distribute the votes among any number of the candidates listed. As there is no provision for writing candidates, the chief appraiser may not count votes for someone not listed on the official ballot. The official ballot is presented for your reference. On page 119, you can see the draft resolution for your consideration with, of course, a blank for your candidate or candidates of choice.
So the candidate that I can speak most in favor of is Mr. Rodenbaugh. He served us extremely well over the years. He is a service-oriented man with, I think, limited influence in the real estate space, which he has a high knowledge of real estate, but not in the real estate business like several of these folks are. And certainly have felt that he has carried forward his service to us in a very responsible manner. So.
We've supported him and
Trustee.
Gary did?
and we've supported him in years past.
Yeah. So we would need a motion to spread our ballots out or cast those for one candidate or two or whatever.
I would fully support all votes towards Gary Rodenbaugh.
Motion is made by Mr. Collins to support Mr. Rodenbaugh with all of our votes. Second by Ann Smith. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Thank you. All right, and consider approval of our resolution and MOU with our amazing Foundation for Lovejoy Schools. Did I just skip right over that? Well, we'll do that one first. Let me back up and do the one we just skipped. Consider approval of the partnership agreement with Collin College for dual credit courses.
A lot of partnerships.
Yep.
Sure.
Sorry.
The Collin College Partnership Agreement for 21-22 is presented for your consideration. This is an agreement, of course, between Lovejoy ISD and Collin College. And this agreement is important because it provides the opportunity for our students to have dual access to dual credit courses. Our curriculum instruction department has reviewed the MOU and feels comfortable with its contents. So we are presenting it to you with our administrative recommendation being that it be considered for approval.
Thank you. Questions, comments, concerns?
Was there any added courses this year? Has it been roughly the same kind of courses that we've had over the years?
I'm not aware of any course changes. That's something that annually we have conversations about when we go into determining master schedule selections for our high schoolers. So that is something that we can make sure in the future, as those conversations happen, that we make sure we bring those maybe forward to a workshop.
Okay, just wondering if anything has changed.
And the other question I had was, I didn't see it in here. I could have missed it. This doesn't bind us to any exclusivity. It just clearly states if something comes along with another institution that was beneficial to our kids, we wouldn't be in violation of this
We
MOU if
would
we
not,
proceed.
no, we can be in partnership with as many higher institutions of learning as we feel is appropriate for our district and our students.
Perfect.
And these courses are still taught, some on Lovejoy campus and some at Con, right?
Right.
Okay.
Any other comments or questions? If not, I would need a motion.
To approve the agreement.
So move, Mr. Wood.
Second.
Second, Chad Collins, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? All right. Now we can move forward to the approval of the resolution and MOU with the Foundation for Lovejoy Schools.
Yes, work to update our memorandum of understanding, better known as our MOU, with our Foundation for Lovejoy Schools. This is to reflect current practices, establish guidelines, and acknowledge our respective obligations and rights of each party. We are recommending that you approve the resolution regarding the Foundation for Lovejoy Schools MOU between Lovejoy and this valued partner.
So move, Jeff Wood.
Second.
Second, Amy Smith. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? All right. Thank you. Consider approval of the charter and membership for the Financial Sustainability Committee. Ms. Cordell and Dr. Duplessis.
Dr. Duplessis is on her way up, but we are very excited to be at this point in the process. We have been talking about the Financial Sustainability Committee for several months now, and the rubber is finally meeting the road because tonight we have our charter for your consideration, as well as committee membership for your consideration. And the timing is so important because Dr. Duplessis, our first meeting is actually on December 9th. Do I have that correct? 7th? December 7th?
Yes.
On
Maybe
December
doubt myself.
7th is our first meeting. So it is coming up here quickly. And so we're so excited to engage with our community and our staff in these very important discussions about our financial future.
Indeed. So we were very fortunate as we developed the plan for the Financial Sustainability Committee and drafted a charter and discussed it at the last board workshop. We also sent out the notification and communication regarding the Financial Sustainability Committee and invited staff and community members to apply to be a part of the Financial Sustainability Committee. And I was really pleased as we move forward with, again, the theme of reframing our story. One of the things we talked about at the budget workshop is that it is going to take a lot of perspectives and a lot of hard work and communication to get through this process. But we know that's part of what it takes. And we are going to build a team that's focused on that. So the charter is on the slide there for all of that. But essentially, it's an advisory stakeholder committee. And we really have several meetings planned with this group to help drive the work of reviewing some of this information as we begin to develop that 2022-23 plan. The Financial Sustainability Committee milestones are on this slide. And we began to review the charge on November 8th and then subsequently released the applications on the 9th. They were due on the 19th. And so we reviewed all of the applications. We had a lot of community member participation, which I was really pleased to see. Not as many on the staff side, but we did definitely have enough to achieve our goal of membership. And then the subsequent meetings, as you said, the first one will be on December 7th, then January 11th, February 6th, and March 15th. We've drafted some topics you'll see on the slide for each of those meetings, but we also recognize this process is going to be a little bit of an ebb and a flow depending on what we uncover and what are some of the things that we want to discuss. So in addition to alignment with the planning committee and the board action, we'll want to kind of keep all those moving in the same direction. So if there are additional items we need to discuss, we've also tentatively set a 5th and 6th meeting date for April and May if those are necessary. So we did have not only the charge to bring forward to the board, but additionally the members of the Financial Sustainability Committee. Stacy, Jack, the slide with the membership isn't up there, but I do believe it is in the board book. So we'll see if we can get that up momentarily. So in summary, we did have, I believe, 14 community members or parents as part of the committee. We have 5 principals, a assistant principal. We have 3 people from central office. We have 7 or 8 teachers and staff members. And then, of course, we have 7 appointees from the board members. So there it is. Thank you. So there you'll see the breakdown. And then we also have a board member liaison, Barrett Owens. So you'll see all the representatives there. One of our goals with the membership was to get a kind of a cross-reference of, community members who've been here a long time, a short time, had kids at elementary, kids at secondary, really across the board. And then when we were looking at teachers and staff, we wanted to have representation from every campus, as well as a couple other areas. Of course, we have all the principals and an AP, and then a couple of central office staff members who also filled out their applications. And then the board appointed each one member for the total that you see there. So we'll be really excited. We'll send out communication this evening or first thing in the morning to those members so that they'll know about the outcome of the application process and be prepared for the December 7th meeting. And it is set for 2 hours. So I'm really excited about that. We had kind of set a bar at the budget workshop, so we wanted to stick with that. But our first meeting will be really going over kind of some school finance 101, because it is so different. We want to introduce our financial sustainability committee members, learn a little bit about them, and then kind of go through some of the deep dive into how school finance functions. But any other questions about the Financial Sustainability Committee charter or membership?
Just want to say thank you. I know a couple of you are here, so thank you for being here and for volunteering. And the people that are watching, thank you. This is great.
Thank you. All right. Any questions? I also share the comments, appreciation for the service of our community, and it's very much appreciated. So we would need a motion to appoint these folks to the committee.
Correct, and to accept the charge and the membership.
Say it again.
And approve the charge.
Right. Charter and membership approval. I need a motion.
So I move to approve the sustainability charter and membership. It's been presented.
I'll
So
second
moved.
that.
And second. So move Jeff Wood and Smith seconds. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Thank you. Thank you, Dr. Duplessis. All right. Consider approval of an update to the superintendent's year 1 goals.
Board, these should hopefully look familiar. You saw these in July, where we presented them publicly, and then you approved them. However, as we move through the school year, obviously we have more information, and I wanted to make sure that the year 1 goals stay current and that I continue to use them as a tool and a guide to focus my work. So there are a couple minor changes that I shared with you in advance of this meeting that I'm recommending, that we initiate a third-party staffing review, and that we have an internally facilitated salary study. Rationale for that is that we believe we can do all of the staffing salary internally with the data that we have available from several resources, which would be a budgetary savings. Additionally, any of the third-party resources that do that type of work would not be able to get that to us until the late spring, where it would not be a tool then we could use as our budgeting process. We are already well into our third-party staffing review. We believe that will be a very helpful tool to us in the 22-23 budgeting and planning process. And then if you look at the final bullet, develop a clear plan and timeline for launching the Lovejoy 2030 strategic planning process. We are finally able to put a specific name on that because we will be launching that process very soon, and applications for that to be involved in that process, both as a staff member or as a parent or community member, have been made available to our community. I am recommending that you all consider these updates to Superintendent Year 1 goals.
Thank you very much. Any questions or comments? If not, I would need a motion.
I move to approve Ms. Cordell's Year 1 goals, the changes, updates, enhancements to those goals.
So move, Chad Collins. Second, Jeff Wood. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Thank you. Consideration and approval of board priorities. Whatever.
Yes, included in your board book, starting on page 163, you will see my proposal for the 21-22 board priorities. These should look very familiar, so keeping with what has been in place, the 5 priorities, but you will note that in red, there is some additional text that reflects some of the current priorities that we have in place. So for example, in priority 1, you'll notice that we added some information about that technology being utilized in that future-ready focus, which you will remember if you remember the document that looked like the red schoolhouse and had the focus areas in there. One of the focus areas was making sure that our students are future-ready. So we've enhanced the language in priority 1 to reflect that. In priority 2, we've also emphasized alignment with our educator profile as well as with our core values. In priority 3, we have enhanced it to have greater alignment with some of the work that we are doing in the area of financial sustainability, and have specifically named a financial assessment, identification of priorities, as well as zero-based budgeting, and increasing that transparency. In priority 4, we have added some information about making sure that we honor the past, celebrate the present, and really continue the legacy for the future. That legacy of excellence in Lovejoy ISD, that's something that is very, very special, and we want to make sure that we are putting attention and resources in that area as well. We strategically decided not to make any overarching changes to the priorities, to go ahead and stay with the format of 5, because this spring, as we all know, we're going to be doing some very important work in regard to the Financial Sustainability Committee, as well as our Lovejoy 2030 Strategic Planning Committee. And once we have that information and the recommendations of those committees, at that time, we might want to consider any additional tweaks or wholesale changes moving forward in terms of our priorities. But at this time, we thought it would be best to stay the course, since our district improvement plan and our campus improvement plans, which will come forward to you in December, are organized around these 5 priorities.
Thank you. As discussed, updates to our board priorities. Any questions or comments from prior discussions? Or
I like the enhancement to all of them.
Yeah, consistent with everything else we're doing. So, and transparent. If not, I would need a motion to approve those.
So moved.
So moved, Amy Smith.
Second.
Second, Ann. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Thank you. All right, cabinet reports.
So this will be the last time you get to hear from me this evening. We just have a few updates to share in the monthly report for finance and operations. And really some of these are just kind of closing the loop and follow-up items of things that we've discussed in prior meetings. But wanted to give some quick feedback on the bond sale, 5-year projection, hold harmless update. There have been a lot of questions about whether we'll have one this year, as well as just a brief update on the finance team. So the bond sale is done. So we closed the $5 million new issue and the refunding, which is going to end up saving us about $19.5 million instead of $17.5. So we shared that outcome before, but it is closed. We do have the funds. So now we will be able to move forward with one project as an example would be the playground that the board approved the Child Development Center. We'll have the funds now to move forward with that. That also gives us kind of a little more of a cushion from a cash flow basis, which is a good thing. As far as our 5-year projection, we went through several scenarios in detail at the last budget workshop, but just wanted to provide a quick snapshot. And this may kind of dovetail with a comment earlier in regard to cash flow and why we were discussing the importance of fund balance. And I'm sorry, I know that's going to be hard for some folks to see. But what we were looking at is basing the green column is our current year, updating the projection compared to budget based on our actual attendance and enrollment. Our enrollment is obviously down compared to the demographic projection that the budget was based on. And our attendance rate the first 6 weeks was 94% instead of the 96% that 97% we had budgeted for. So those are kind of impacts that you're seeing throughout the state, but we wanted to go ahead and project where we think we'll be this current year based on that. So that being said, that also gives us some things that we need to look forward to. You'll see there that while we ended with 73 days of fund balance at the end of the last fiscal year, our current projection was to end at 68, which is very dangerous in terms of trying to make payroll in December, particularly because we get most of our revenue from local tax collections. We don't get very much state aid because of our property values. So we kind of have to float from the beginning of the year until we start getting those tax proceeds in November. We don't have cash coming in. So that's where that kind of becomes pretty important. So one of the things that we wanted to see is where we would end up this year based on the current projection and what we would have to make up in order to get us back to at least a 75-day fund balance, which is where the first rating system begins to ding districts for having a fund balance below the 75. It's really a bar minimum. GFOA recommends 90 days and then says adjust your 90 days based on your particular organization's cash flow, which for us is not as even of a cash flow as most other school districts would have. So anyway, you can see the numbers there and the dollar amount that we would project we would have to make up in the current year. If we were to throw in an assumption of a 1% payroll expense increase and all other expenses staying the same to get to that 75-day fund balance, you can see the financial recovery would be about $850,000. So one of our current strategies is trying to maximize the items that we've already purchased that we can submit through ESSER supplemental. So we're in the process of doing that. We did get our NOGA, and so we also had to do a maintenance of equity report that we've just submitted. So like any other federal funds, it's a lot of paperwork and a lot of process, but we're well on our way. And so what we wanted to do was not only see where we are this current year, but where we think we'll be potentially in 3 years. That 24-25 year is a big one because based on our demographics, that's when our enrollment no longer increases. And if that's the case, then we really have a sweet 3-year window to try to recapture what we need to do. So you can see the numbers year over year, what it would take to get back to that 75-day fund balance each and every year. So at a minimum, you're looking at $311,000 to $850,000 depending on the year. So that's really just to kind of share more detail about what we discussed earlier, the importance of that fund balance as it pertains to our cash flow. So the good news is we did have a state funding update. We've put a lot of pressure on the state about having a hold harmless this year because we haven't heard anything. We just kind of had heard a lot about let's wait and see, let's wait and see. There could be some waivers. So they won't use the word hold harmless because it's not going to be the same as it was in prior years. But what we do have is what they're calling an attendance waiver based on low percentage attendance days. And so we might receive an adjustment if the ADA student count is as if the attendance rate were the lesser of the rate from the first 6 weeks of last year of 1920 or the average of the final 3 6-week periods of 21-22. So what that means to us is that essentially they're going to look at the attendance rate and apply that to your enrollment. So our first 6-week attendance rate for 21-22 was 94.4%. And if we look at our operational minute minimum adjustment, using the TPAR calculation that the state came out with, again, this is only for the first 6 weeks at this point. It would be based on the lower of that first 6-week attendance rate of 1920, which for us was 97.9%. It was very high because for one thing, it was the first 6 weeks and that was pre-COVID, I think. So if you compare that to the last 16 weeks of what we would normally expect in any given year, for example, 2021, we had a 95.9% attendance rate. So of those two options, the state will most likely be pulling our last 6 weeks attendance for this current school year. And if we achieve something higher than the 94.4% we achieved the first 6 weeks, they will apply that attendance rate to that first 6 weeks ADA. So that's why the attendance rate is going to be extremely important for the district continually, particularly in that last 16 weeks, which tends to be our lower attendance time periods, once we get through testing and things like that. So those are things that we're going to continue to have to monitor and really be paying a lot of attention to. And so we just wanted to update everyone on what that TPAR adjustment is. It is a good opportunity for us if we're able to keep that attendance rate the last 16 weeks above that 94.4. So last but not least, we had just a brief team update. Linda Green, who's been with the district for a number of years, her last day was right before Thanksgiving break. She wanted to leave 2 months ago and was nice. I think when I begged her to stay just a little longer so we could kind of get a transition plan in place, and Cassandra Rice has joined us working on accounts payable, which is what Linda Green did before, and helping the bookkeepers and kind of doing a lot of day-to-day transactional work that's helping us keep things moving forward. So just wanted to mention that. And that is all I have in the way of finance and operations updates, unless you have any questions.
I'm going to put you on the spot. The projects that are going on with athletics, I've been kind of curious what's happening. Can you tell us anything about that? Are we still tracking for December 25th? Completion?
So some of the work will probably continue longer than that. The majority of the work, all the turf and the press boxes and things like that, some of the practice field rework, I think may extend longer than that. And we can certainly look at doing a more extensive scope update in the future if you want to hear that.
I just was asking because people asking me.
Yeah.
So that's all. I figured no news was good news.
It has been progressing well, which is good.
Question on the attendance waivers. So this is going to be happening instead of the hold harmless, like what we saw last couple of years. And so the way I understood what you just presented was the last 3 6-week periods of this current school year. So the end of 22 this year. So this spring, we need as high attendance as possible to make up the difference to receive additional funds back from the state. So are we going to be putting together plans to communicate that? And we've got some time to plan to try to drive that attendance at the end of the year. Is that right? Am I understanding that?
Yes, that's precisely right.
And then at some point, could we get what is every one, like if you said 94 point something, so every 1% above that, what does that mean in real dollars? And and maybe putting some incentives in place. And is that all the things we're working towards? Is that right?
Yes, and so we did put out, and I'll let Lori comment in more specific. Some of the information that was sent out to campuses, specifically on their attendance rate and the importance of it. We included how much it costs, and the principals were very supportive and sent that out through all of their messages to their parents and constituents. So we're definitely trying to get the word out, but I think we all know that as we continue to talk about that, we know we're going to have to do some really concerted effort around the last 3 periods to make sure that we're not losing any ground at that point. And then, you know, of course, crystal ball, I don't have one, but I would assume that if our attendance rates across the state continue to be impacted, the likelihood of that TAPR adjustment being included maybe for the second 6 weeks is a possibility, which of course raises the importance of being able to achieve that attendance rate for the last.
The attendance rates in the spring, you're almost getting double benefit because you're getting the higher rate of having more people in the seats for the spring ADA, but then you're getting it again for the Delta on the first part of the year. So
precisely.
Okay.
Mm-hmm. And I know we've had some discussion around attendance incentives. I'll steal Lori's thunder on that.
Our campus principals are working with us on, they're putting in place incentives for their campus. So we're doing weekly contests. So those kicked off today. And then we're going to be highlighting that in the Connect with Katie every Friday as well too. We're trying to kind of gear it toward the kiddos to get them motivated to get there. So that is one piece that we're doing. We also reinstated School Messenger today that parents will be receiving phone calls if the students are not in class or not showing up. So that is also moving forward, but we're going to be monitoring that weekly as we meet with our principals every Monday. So we are going to try to target the kids to see if we can get them motivated to get here.
Dr. Duplessis, can I ask the amount of funding that's on the line here, a high and a low?
So it all depends on what that last 3 periods is. But, you know, we could, if we were able to achieve, you know, I don't think getting anywhere near the 97.9 is probably feasible considering we average around 96% throughout the year. But if we're looking at a 1.5% to 2% difference in ADA, that could be several $100,000s for the district. And so it's definitely, it could be quite a significant impact. And again, right now we're looking at that adjustment being just for the first 6 weeks. But again, I kind of speculate on if that would be something that would be continued in subsequent 6 weeks, just dependent on the attendance rate trends throughout the state. Who knows?
Through that educating process, I think it's important for people to understand what's on the line, dollars-wise as well. Thank you.
Thank you.
Good evening. Dr. Tinsley and I are actually going to share this presentation, and really we want to give some updates around special education programming. And I'll talk from the special education kind of overview and just make sure that the common knowledge of what happens in special education is the groundwork is laid. And then just like any good program, whether it's our AP program, whether it's cross country, there's always program reviews, and that's how we get better. There's a lot of great things that are going on. We have parents that come to the district not only for AP and cross country and football, but they also come for the special education programming. And so what I love about this statement is together we're committed to having high expectations and strong systems that achieve equitable outcomes for every student with a disability that will accelerate a child's personal growth and academic development. And what I think that's important there is that is a huge bubble. That's parents, that's our special education staff, that's our general education staff, that's our school board, our campus administrators that are every day in the trenches working, our C&I staff. And so really it takes us all to make sure that that support for each student is in place. The other part that I like about this is each child's personal growth and development. And that's really the hard part when we are looking at special education because everything is individualized. And that's really getting pretty granular for each student to make sure that they're reaching their growth and academic development. So this is important because sometimes, and even in my history in special education, we have a student that qualifies and we're like, they're ours. We're going to take care of them. And we forget that they never lose that they're a Hart Elementary student or a general education student. They only just receive services in an area in special education. And so this statement really is pretty telling where all students are general education students who happen to receive special education services. What's even unique is we share students with Bree Smith. We have students who happen to receive services in a particular area in special education, but they're also GT. And so that's really a unique opportunity that's called Twice Exceptional, that we work together in partnership. So we have GT staff, general education staff, and special education staff working to meet those personal growth needs for each student. So when we look at what are elements of successful special education program, we want to embrace student differences as part of a school culture. And really, how the campuses do a fabulous job of that is really students are included in everything that we do. Sometimes we'll get calls from parents who have concern, and maybe the school's talking to them about testing their student. And their experience in school was students who may receive services went to this room and you never saw them again. And that's not what it's like in Lovejoy. We embrace everyone. We want them, every student, to be a part of the campus, be part of the culture. We have effective general education instruction is key. And so really when we say that, the general education teachers, they're the key content experts. Because when you think about a special education teacher at elementary, they're responsible for kindergarten through fourth grade curriculum potentially, right? And so they have specialty in their particular area, whether it's social emotional, maybe a very specialized reading program, but that partnership with general education is definitely very important. And I'll talk in a few minutes, what does that look like? How do they intersect? Ensure that content-strong general education staff provide regular interventions and support. So just because a student may receive services in special education does not mean the general education teacher cannot support them and continue to enhance that instruction. That there's multi-tiered systems of support and layered interventions, and that's really where I talked about. You may have a student who receives gifted and talented services, special education services, and then they definitely may be receiving support from the general education counselor for social emotional needs. Perfectly fine. It's really about supporting where their needs are, all of the tiered system to be able to support them. But everything we do should have data that drives, is it working? Are they making progress? We want to make sure that the special educators play to their strengths. And again, that's really where we see this most beneficial when I'm talking to a parent about what does co-teach. And that's a model I'll talk in just a few minutes about, but that's the best of two worlds where we have a general education staff member and a special education staff member instructing students. Family and community partnerships. And really, we couldn't do it without the work of our community and our parents who are walking that alongside, pulling that thread through of what's happening on the campus, in the classrooms, and then working, getting their input on what they see and how the students responding at home. We want to also focus on outcomes, not just input. That's where that data comes back into. Is it working? If it's not, how do we come back around the table to support and adjust as needed? And then that staffing is aligned with programming and services. And that gets really unique in special education because sometimes a student may come in who has a very high level of need. And while we're working on closing gaps, it may mean that they need a very low to staff student ratio just to support them. But with our long-term goal of how are we able to expand that as that gap is being closed? That's again where we're looking at those individual needs for each student. So I talked about the continuum of services. And so as we're looking at how do we support students, we call that in the special education language, all the way on the far left side is least restrictive environments, and all the way to the farthest side where you see residential is the most restrictive. Mainstream is really students are in the general education classroom receiving that rich instruction. That could be where support's coming to them. That may be a special education teacher coming into that classroom along with the general education teacher. It could be a special education paraprofessional that's supporting the individual program of the student. So they're staying in that general education classroom.
We also have students who stay in the general education classroom, but the content is modified based off where their need is. So they're not getting the same breadth of content that potentially their peer next to them. Again, that takes collaboration between special education and general education of making sure that we're taking out the appropriate content, that they're still able to get the teaks that's needed for that grade level. Content mastery, that is a very old wording. We don't really use that a ton, but really what probably to frame it for what it looks like for us, kind of like if CAT, if our Center for Academic Training was only built for special education, it's not, but where students may go in, get a really quick bit of help and come out, that's really what the intent. So you have a very short amount of time that you're in there receiving some very targeted help, and then you go back into the general education classroom. The resource room, again, depending on the student and what their needs are, we have students who go in, there's a special education staff member, the teacher that's supporting them with their instructional needs. It could be their full block of, let's just say math, that they're in there, they're getting instruction. It could be that they're getting some of their instruction in the general education classroom and then going for reteach in the special education classroom. So again, where that individualization comes in, it's going to look a little bit different. But if you look at mainstreams with modification, even content mastery, and the resource room, all of that is tight alignment with what's going on in general education and working with the teacher and making sure that there's strong collaboration between the two. Self-contained really is about the percentage of time you're in also in a special education room. So really if more than half of your day is in where you're not in general education, but you're in a room that is only staffed by special education staff members, that's really what that means. Again, the student still has a foot in the door by and large in general education, but they also have a larger amount of time that's in special education. We have close to 400 students that we serve through the district in special education. And right now there's not anyone that's 100% self-contained, which that means is there's not anyone that their full day is only in special education. And that's really to the work that's going on at the campus level of making sure that we're supporting their individual needs where it's appropriate, that they're getting that specially designed instruction through special education, but they're also supporting that their needs in the general education setting as well. The next one is homebound, and generally we see that where students who have most of the time a pretty severe medical need where they're not able to come to school. And so the instruction actually goes to them. It is an abbreviated day, but there's generally a reason which is medically driven, and we have to get a lot of information from the doctors to be able to determine how to best support them in that setting with the goal of them being able to transition back into the school, the campus. Hospital, believe it or not, when students are in the hospital, instruction still continues. And so what's a little bit unique about that one is we do not have a hospital that's within our district boundaries, but if we did, we would be responsible for students who were there and serving them. So if we had a student that was in the hospital at Children's in Dallas, what happens is DISD then picks up the services with the students. Normally what we try to do is partner with the DISD staff because we want to keep our students paced on the Lovejoy curriculum and really the standards that we have. We do try to partner with them to make sure that we're providing the work so that they continue to get the instruction so there's not gaps. Because if not, what could happen is the DISD staff could decide this is what I'm going to instruct them in, and there could be some potential gaps for students when they do return. And then last but not least is residential, and that's generally a small percentage, but if a district was not able to support the academic or social emotional needs of a student and they've exhausted everything from mainstream all the way over, consideration around residential treatment would be, which means that they would live there, go to school there. And again, as you can tell, that would be the most restrictive placement for them. So there's a lot that goes on as far as looking at planning and support, but again, such a tight intertwine between special education services and the importance of that partnership with general education.
Can I ask a quick question on that? Who oversees that? So you've got so many kids, or obviously they have both general and special needs. So who oversees to make sure that there's coordination
Absolutely. It's a great question. So every student has a case manager, and that's just one of the special education staff members on the campus. So they may have a caseload of 10 students that they case manage. That's their point person for the family. So families know, hey, if I'm not even sure who to go to, I can go to the case manager. They're working collaboratively with the general education teacher, looking at data, how are we best supporting the individual education plan for each student, adjusting accordingly. But when we go to what we call ARD meetings, which stands for Admission, Review, and Dismissal, general education staff member are there at the meetings as well. They're just as integral as we're planning, because really there's a lot of data that goes into it that plans really what are we going to work on, where are we going to work on it at based off that continuum, and how much time that's going to take. It's a good question. Just to wrap up, special education services definitely are important. It's important, and you guys have invested the resources and the support to making sure that children with learning differences have that opportunity to receive quality education that supports their unique needs. And again, that could be academic. That can also be on the social emotional side. There are some students that definitely academics, not the area that they're needing specially designed instruction, and it's on the social emotional side. And so special education enables every student to gain a high level of independence and reach their potential. And that's really, when you think about the graduate profile, it's really for every student. We want them to be able to leave Lovejoy High School, meet their potential based off what their goals are set forth for them.
So Samsey kind of gave you some background in the philosophy and the understanding of the programming. What we are engaging in, and actually kicked it off today, we are contracting with a consultant who is going to facilitate a needs assessment looking at our special education programming here in Lovejoy, and it kind of falls right in line with the other assessments we have in place. And so the objective is it's going to provide the district, we're going to have a report, and it's going to identify areas of strengths, needs, and recommendations related to programming in special education. And it's more of it's not a deficit model. So we're looking at, it's purely coming to us with some recommendations. What are we doing well? What are some things that we might need to consider? Specifically, we're going to be looking at the delivery, the implementation at the campus levels, the delivery model, and how it's happening in our classrooms and in our buildings. And that's going to begin with our early childhood, which would mean your 3 and 4-year-olds over here, all the way up through our 12th graders. And we're going to be looking at staffing. We're going to be looking at the efficiency of staffing, retention of staff, clarification of roles, and scheduling of staff throughout our district. And that would be campus level staff as well as district level assessment staff here at the district. And then we're also going to be looking at professional development needs. The way the process that the consultant is going to be working through to gather this information to provide the report, she will be here tomorrow to begin campus and classroom observations. Each campus is going to have a half a day. She will be on each campus a half a day, looking at the various settings. She'll be looking at the inclusion setting where these students are, the structured teach self-contained setting, the resource setting, and our co-teach models. And so that will occur here at the Child Development Center all the way up to the high school. She'll also be conducting some focus group interviews, and the way that we've divided these groups up, she'll meet with the group of principals, special education staff, EC through 12, assessment and related services staff that are located here at the admin building, and then also general education staff members. And those she'll have the questions, and the discussions will be facilitated around the 3 objectives that I named earlier. We also provided a survey today for our professional staff members, and that's gathering their input as far as the areas that they feel like are going well, their understanding of our services, It's also going to be talking about professional development needs, but we'll be gathering some more information through that survey. And then also we'll provide some artifacts for the consultant, looking at schedules, how we are looking at our student data and performance data that we have, and then all of our staff and their certifications and how we have those staffed on our campuses. And we should have our report by mid-January. Any questions? Okay, thank you.
Just have one item for our communications update. Right before the break, if you'll remember, we were chosen to be one out of 50 schools in the world that the smart company that provided our smart boards chose to include in their Connections That Count initiative. And so they were wanting to find out, especially after this pandemic that we had gone through, what are some different ways that we are making connections with students? And if you'll remember, we proposed to them many different stories. So Ms. Hume, Crystal Hume, our coordinator for instructional technology, she's really the one that initiated this. And she started talking about just different stories, telling the story of Lovejoy, and their development team chose a story out of all the stories that she told. Chose one, and that happened to be Ms. Emerson, our AP statistics teacher at the high school who was here tonight. And really the premise of what they covered for us was taking a class like AP statistics that kids don't necessarily go through the door doing cartwheels for, but they may come out doing cartwheels because of how engaging she is. And so they interviewed 4 students. Those 4 students were Dina Thataconda, Aiden Abramson, Austin Chapman, and Ryan Clark. And really, after listening to those students do their interviews with the representatives from SMART, it had nothing to do with technology. It had nothing to do with anything other than hearing really how the relationship evolved from the first day they walked into the classroom with Ms. Emerson to where they are now, and how Ms. Emerson promoted the engagement just through the relationship they had. She took a huge interest in who these kids were as people, that she valued. She doesn't have to be the expert. She allowed those kids to learn from each other. And that was really the story that is going to be told in the video that they're going to use. They're going to take this video. They had a videographer that came, shot B-roll footage and all other types of video. They're going to kind of mash that up for us, send it to us, and then they're also going to share it with all these schools around the world to show other people how our kids in an AP statistics class in Lovejoy High School able to get so much out of that class, and it's because of the relationships that they have with our teacher, Ms. Emerson. And so they also interviewed Ms. Emerson. They interviewed Ms. Hume to be able to tell that story. So as soon as we get that, it'll be just a 2 or 3 minute video, but we'll be able to share that with you, and it should be coming very soon. So it was really neat to hear. The lady said, if we would have paid those kids to say what they said, they wouldn't have said what they said. She said it was that good, just how well-spoken our kids were in front of a light, in front of a camera, knowing that they were going to be on this video. So it was really great to see. So that is the only update I have for communications. For our human resources update, there's a few more items. The first one is that we have and will continue to celebrate our Heart of a Teacher and Heart of Support. Tomorrow we'll be visiting campuses to recognize some more of our teachers and support staff who will be recipients, and they've been recognized by our campus administrators and our directors throughout the district. One of our initiatives in human resources going into the spring, our hiring season, if you will, is going to be developing a pipeline of teachers who are committed to and attracted to being the best educators that they can be, but even more importantly, doing that for Lovejoy ISD. And we have to do something to stand out in that. We can't be just posting on job boards, and we can't be just hoping that they click on Lovejoy ISD. We have to do something to make ourselves stand out. So there's a couple of things, and I'll share a little bit more with you in a little bit. But there is a grant through TEA, and they are partnering with different higher ed organizations. We are going to do that through A&M Commerce. And what TEA is doing is providing $20,000 for up to 20 interns to come in and be student teachers in a district. And so that is really the best pipeline that we can have to attract great talent, is to get them in before they've even graduated from college, let them learn the Lovejoy way, and hopefully have them be here for their entire career. As a college student, $20,000 is a lot for an entire year that can go towards whatever they really choose to. So it's a grant that's fully funded by TEA, and I'll keep you updated on what our next steps are as we move through that process with A&M Commerce and the Texas Education Agency. We are also been working with TASB, free of charge, by the way, for a staffing review, and all of our campus administrators and directors really submitted to the representative from TASB how we are using different staff. So we submitted, for instance, from Willow Springs Middle School, every teacher, what they teach, how they spend their time throughout the day. This representative from TASB is going to take, they have taken all of our campus, every employee in the district, and how efficient and how effective are we using our staff in this district. And they're meeting with all of our directors, all of our administrators, and they'll give us kind of what their findings are, where are our soft spots, where are we overutilizing people, where are we underutilizing people. And that way, going into the spring again, we can make better decisions with the employees that we have to get the most out of each and every one of them. We are continuing to provide training and professional development to many of our supervisors with what we call a progressive discipline process. And it's really to make sure that we are taking our employees where they are, how they're performing, and making sure that we're getting the most out of them, providing the training, providing opportunities for them to be the best teachers and employees that they can in Lovejoy. Down towards the bottom, the temporary independent contractor process, that really is just kind of a last step. As you know, our HR department used to be split under two kind of umbrellas. This is kind of the last step to bringing in our temporary and independent contractors, putting them underneath the same umbrella, if you will, and being able to correctly classify those employees according to what the IRS regulations are for those two. So we'll continue to do that, but it's really just a formality because we are bringing those two types of employees underneath into our human resources department instead of having them split. Finally, on that page, the very last thing is we're compiling personnel data for state teams. Really, it's just reporting to the state how many years of service each one of our staff members have, and we report that for their table report. Finally, on the last page of the human resources updates, the Department of Human Resources Department, each one of us are going through different professional developments. And finally, I mentioned earlier about creating this pipeline of college graduates for us to hopefully bring in to be employees and teachers in Lovejoy. We're also going to begin going out to the different universities in the area that have education schools. And we will be talking 3 times a semester, at the beginning of the semester, the middle of the semester, and the end, just making contact with those kids they're not kids, those young adults who are about to graduate. So those who are seniors in the last semester of their internship, we want to build relationships with them. So again, when it's time for them to graduate and then they go look for a job, they don't have to go look on the job board. They can come and talk to this person in Lovejoy ISD because we've been in front of them. We've already started discussions, and we can go ahead and attract, recruit, and hopefully retain them for their entire careers.
Can I add to that? I think that's awesome. And I think, we have those positions that are so hard to find, the foreign language, the sciences. Can we target that too when we go to these schools? I don't know how it works when you're declaring.
Yeah, absolutely. So we're going to, actually our first one is going to be on Friday. We're going out to the Collin College kind of extension of A&M Commerce. And we're going to hopefully get, obviously, the list of graduates who are graduating right now. What are their areas of study? What are their certifications going to be? And we can absolutely target.
Because those are hard.
They are.
And it's hard when people leave and then you're trying to find someone and it's, anyway.
Well, it's not always necessarily what certification I have, is also what background do you have?
Right.
What certification can we push you to?
Right.
Because if that's your background, you already have a passion for it, even though you may not have a certification, we can explore that as well.
Cool. I like the process.
Any other questions? Thank you.
Thank you.
We are all having some trouble digesting that there are only 3 weeks until winter break. That is hard to believe, but we are relishing in all the student success and cannot wait to have our state champion volleyball team here at our December board meeting to be able to recognize them publicly as well. What a way to kick off the Thanksgiving break. That was absolutely remarkable to be there and see that happen. So excited for our volleyball team. We also have multiple robotics teams that have qualified for state. They have been doing remarkably well, even have a tournament champion winner as well among the ranks. And coming up here at the end of this week and into the weekend, we have our annual Fine Arts Festival. In Lovejoy ISD, we talk a lot about our legacy of excellence, and our Fine Arts Festival is very much one of the traditions that significantly contributes to that legacy of excellence. I am so excited to experience my very first Fine Arts Festival in Lovejoy. Also, on Saturday, we have a very important football game at the Star at 2:30 p.m., another playoff game, which is incredible. And on Saturday, we also have 66 band students who are competing in their all-region editions with TMEA, which is a really big deal. So a lot going on Saturday. Our student opportunity model is just incredible. The only downside is that we do have conflicts then, right? That we have to resolve, because when our kids are so darn successful and their seasons extend out, and they are participating in so many things, we know, it's worth working through those conflicts, but it can be difficult. So one thing we will be communicating here this week are some of the ways that our Fine Arts Festival will need to be adjusted to accommodate the different schedules of our students. So we hate that we've had to adjust those plans, because our directors in the area of fine arts and our students have worked so hard, and many of our parents and boosters that support those groups have worked so hard to develop that schedule. But we certainly appreciate the flexibility and the adjustment, because again, our students are so darn successful and being involved in so many remarkable things that we know really builds them into the type of graduate that we want to have here from Lovejoy ISD. So all of those things are extremely exciting, and I know it will continue as we move throughout the school year.
That's a great update. Thank you so much, Ms. Cordell. Our next item is public comments related to non-agenda items.
Mr. Owens, this evening we have no public comments related to non-agenda items.
Perfect. Thank you. Well, I couldn't underscore anymore how well our students are doing, our community, our staff, partnering together to allow these kids to believe in themselves and achieve things that they didn't know they were capable of before they got here. And that's ultimately what it's about. So thank you for all that we're doing with our staff, our students, and our parents, and just excellence. It's, impressive, very impressive. With that, we will be adjourned.